in these companies for the benefit of future generations.
Question number 3, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement that, quote, New Zealand simply can't afford a future where 20% of our workforce does not have the skills necessary for modern jobs, end quote?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce on behalf of the Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, absolutely. That is why this government has increased the output of industry training by 14% since 2008. That is why we have created 16,500 more full-time places across the tertiary sector since 2008. That is why we have introduced the Youth Guarantee, which will provide 7,500 places next year. That is why we are establishing 21 trade academies, a number doubled in an announcement made only today by the Education Minister. And that is why we have more than trebled the number of people participating in level 1 and 2 courses with embedded literacy and numeracy in just the last 3 years.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, isn't it actually true that the number of people in industry-based skilled training has dropped by 31,000 under this government's watch, and that the number of apprenticeships have declined, particularly in the area like building and construction, where those skills are desperately needed to rebuild Christchurch?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, what has actually happened is the government is no longer funding imaginary trainees like the previous government did. In 2008, more than 96,000 people, in fact 96,831 people were listed by the previous government and funded as being in an industry training where they didn't achieve a single credit. In 2009, which was the last year before we changed the rules, more than 100,000 people were funded to do industry training and didn't achieve a single credit. And in fact, across those 2 years, there were 44,000 people that were taxpayer funded in the settings made by the Labor Party that were there for 2 years and didn't achieve a single credit. That is not industry training, that is imaginary training.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Why has he not acted on the advice given to him by the Tertiary Education Commission in March of this year to double the amount of funding going into training building and construction workers to overcome a massive skill shortage, perhaps using some of the money, the $145 million that he cut out of industry training in the budget this year?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I would point out to the member that in Budget 2011 we made available $48 million more for industry training and for trades-related training and polytechnics, and those numbers are growing and considerable places are still available. And on top of that, we announced $55 million for job opportunities placements with MSD and employers to subsidise people into industry training for trades-related training. They are all available now, and if there is anybody interested, Mr Speaker, in taking up trades training opportunities, there are hundreds and thousands of those available right now for trade training in Christchurch.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, in view of the fact that we have a very high rate of young people unemployed in New Zealand alongside a skill shortage, why doesn't he pay an incentive such as the unemployment benefit to young people who are currently unemployed that would go to the employer on the basis that it makes a hell of a lot more sense to pay the employer to train that young person in lifelong skills than to have that person rot on the dole?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, well, in fact we do exactly the Skills for Growth program and the Job Opportunities for Training program makes subsidies of $5,000 available for employers for exactly that thing. And I have seen other suggestions from other parties about how we could improve industry training, and I can tell the member opposite that we're already doing pretty much all of them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Order.
Does he agree with the Canterbury Employment and Skills Board Chairman Carl Davidson that rebuilding Christchurch would take as long as 15 years because of the shortage of skilled labour in that city?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Prime Minister, I can tell the member that the Minister of Tertiary Education was meeting trades trainers in Christchurch yesterday and spoke with a number of them on the training that's going on at the moment. And I can tell the member that trades-related training for ITPs is up 2,500 since April 20 this year. that the numbers in industry training are increasing steadily as well, and as businesses get more confidence in terms of the construction work coming through, that I'm reliably informed that they will take up trainees at an increasing rate.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr Speaker, when he launched the Kia ora Mai training program 2 years ago and said that that would raise the skills of 10,000 service industry workers in time for the Rugby World Cup, why 3 days out from the Rugby World Cup has he only achieved 10% of that number?
The Honourable Stephen Joyce.
Well, Mr Speaker, I think it is important, of course, to say on behalf of the Prime Minister that, of course, these are demand-based programs, and making these places available, it's important that the demand has the opportunity to be met. But the point being, Mr Speaker, is that this government has made thousands of more places available in tertiary training, and there is no shortage of places available right now.
Question number 4, Tim McIndoe.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health. What was the average annual increase in elective discharges from 2000, 2001 to 2006